has come to make a change. The time has come to unlock the hope. Aloha. Welcome to another Mama Presents, or should I say Up Close and Personal 2011. This is the first of shows that we're doing that is sort of a revisit. I have a great pleasure. I have a great guest. This is Netra Halperin.
Hello, Jason.
Aloha. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. I always enjoy speaking with you.
As many of you recall, Netra was a candidate in the last election cycle for the State House of Representatives seat in Kihei, Maui. And you would have thought, had she not secured that seat, that you'd see her go back and then come back in 2 years maybe or something, or try again. But this lady has shown me through the times I've known her, you are a committed person. You're committed to making a difference in our world, which I really appreciate. And that's why I thought it was good to start this whole process of revisiting with you, because whether in a seat or not, you are a candidate for the people. You're for the people. What have you been doing?
Well, I'm over working at the legislature. I work for a representative, Representative Rita Cabanella. She's from Eva Beach, and she's the chair of housing. And so I'm the committee clerk. And we deal with issues such as homelessness, the foreclosure crisis. I'm also very involved in researching that and finding solutions that will help homeowners. So that's what I'm very concerned about.
Well, and you know people that I know that have been out there. You know Jeannie Vance? Have you met her?
I do know Jeannie, yes. She's a great woman.
She's a great woman and been very committed to the challenges that are happening to people in foreclosure. What have you seen happening? I think we all have seen it, but what have you seen from where you sit?
I mean, it's the whole foreclosure crisis. It started many years ago. It started back in 2000 when banks were selling overinflated mortgages. The investors started suing them because, you know, people think there's the mortgagers, and then there's the banks. Well, there's the investors. The banks themselves are just managing their investors' money. And some of the investors are pension funds. The state of Hawaii also invested over $1 billion in SLARs, which is student loan auction rate securities. And this is going a little bit afield, but it's part of the whole bigger picture of bank deregulation and some, I will actually say, banking fraud that has happened and is totally
fraud
affected.
From the banks and from the borrowers and from everybody?
Well, mostly the banks. Mostly the banks.
Oh.
What happened with the with the SLARs? Let's see, Merrill Lynch. These auction rate securities. The brokers were.
1 second. We just want you to know if you hear any cheering, that would be hoping that would be for us. But there's a wedding going on over here, and we're in beautiful Iao Valley. So just so you know what's going on. So back to where you were. You were talking about a serious subject. So hearing cheering in the background seemed a little odd, but we're good.
And also just utilizing the beauty of Maui. I mean, we've got these beautiful parks, and we want to use them.
It's nice to see people are using them. I'm here during the week, and I see many people use this as, that just means they just got married. People are using this as their home base because they don't have places to live. That's another part of our subject.
And we'll get to homelessness definitely, but I want to talk about this a little bit.
Yeah.
So what Merrill Lynch and these other companies are doing, is they pretended that the auction rate securities were more liquid than they really were.
Yeah.
And so many municipalities, including the state of Hawaii, the county of Maui, invested in those. And then the market collapsed. And so we were left, the state of Hawaii was left holding the bag with about $800 million. With the county of Maui, it was about $44 million. So the budget deficits are not just due to lower tax income, they're also due to some banking, basically fraud. And there's a lot of people suing the banks right now all across the country. So far, it's just the beginning. It's the beginning of accountability being brought to this. So I keep posted and watch, and I will keep people posted. But anyway, back to borrowers. So what happened is the banks were already being sued back in the 80s and up until 2003, and so they said, you know, we need to do something. And so they started purposefully lending out money to people that they knew would eventually not be able. But it's a cycle. I mean, a lot of people were able to make their payments. A lot of people are decent, hardworking people who had always paid their bills. And when they got these loans, the bank said, you know, when it comes time for the ARM, the adjustable rate mortgage, to readjust up, don't worry, you can refinance. Just keep your credit up. The market is going up, you can refinance. But of course, it didn't really work that way because the ARMs created the market collapse, which created that people either lost their jobs, or if they had their own business, they lost their customers, or you know, they lost hours if they were working for a big company, and people weren't able to pay them. So it was kind of calculated. It didn't just happen. The economy just didn't go down. And what many banks and what many investors who are very well-to-do and savvy are doing is they're betting against people succeeding. And so the rich are still getting richer in this country. And now the middle class, people with educations, hard-working people with educations, can't even make a living because the money is just rising up. And you know, America's not in a very good position right now. And we're going to have to stop some of these practices. And then this whole modification thing, that is a nightmare.
That's the right word. They lured people into the illusion that they were going to be modifying their loans, and they put them in these, if they put them at all, in trial packages with an example of their payment for the next while, but they need to qualify, and the values of the properties keep going down, and many people are in high loan-to-value loans, and so more foreclosures are happening, and more properties being lost, and the prices keep going down because of oversupply. This is like a nightmare, but
it is.
We're breathing and awake.
And many of my constituents that I've spoken to have said that they have submitted their paperwork, and then the bank says, oh, I'm sorry, we lost it. Can you submit it again? Or, oh, the notary signed on the wrong page. Or, you know, you crossed the T instead of dotted the I. And over and over and over resubmitting the same paperwork. And it's this nightmare. And then if they're in Hawaii, they have to send it by FedEx, and that's $75, $50. And then also the banks are telling them, well, yes, we can give you a lower loan payment, but we will ding your credit, and we will be assessing fees, and we're going to add that all onto the back end of the loan.
How about the fact that you couldn't even get a modification unless you were 2 months late on mortgages, and so they were encouraging people to be late on their mortgages so they'd be able to do loan modification, and then they told them their credit was bad.
It's amazing when, I mean, I grew up in California, and I actually was a customer of Bank of America, and I, like most people, thought, you know, that's the bank. That's a well-regulated, you know, respectable industry, and Bank of America is a huge part of this. I work at the Capitol, and I was in my office one afternoon, it was around 5 o'clock, and two gentlemen came by, and my representative, my boss, wasn't there, and so he said, you know, I'm the VP, one of the gentlemen, the other was Hawaii Bankers Association, and he said, I'm from VP of Bank of America, and I can give you and your friends and family and your representative and your constituents a phone number directly to the president of Bank of America if they're having trouble with their mortgages. And I said, oh, that's great. I said, you know what? I also, when evenings and weekends, I also work for a foreclosure attorney. I'm sure our clients would love to have this number because a lot of them are having trouble with Bank of America. And he said, oh no, absolutely not. You cannot give that number to them. And I questioned that, and I said, well, don't you think that's a little unethical? And he said, well, it's transparent. I think it is what it is. And then the Hawaii Bankers Association gentleman said, well, it's kind of like, I used to be a representative, he said, and constituents would call about things like potholes. And even though, that's a county issue, I would, just to help them out, I would send them to the person that could help them with that. And I said, well, I don't think potholes and, losing your home are really on the same par. And he said, and besides which, people by the time they call a legislator are, pretty desperate. Well, there's a lot of people who aren't calling their legislators who are pretty desperate. And legislative staff, and he also said this is the same number that we give to the Congress people. Legislative staff and Congress people are not paid by the state or by the federal government to service people's mortgages. That's not their job. Their job is to help the representative or the congressperson in fulfilling their duties. So basically the bank is giving their job to somebody else. And the other thing is, shouldn't they be giving good service to everyone? I mean, you shouldn't have to have a connection with a legislator to get good service. And I did speak to a reporter from AOL Daily Finance, Abigail Fields, and she wrote this all up, and it is on AOL Daily Finance. So, basically letting the country know that, I think the title of the story was Bank of America offers help with loans, but only if you're a legislator. So, and he said that the reason that they came to Hawaii was because of some legislation. And there was some really good legislation. It's been kind of watered down. I'm waiting to see what happens in its final form.
Is that the one that Jeannie was working on? About having representatives from the lender here to have a physical office or something else?
No, that was part of it, but to me, that's interesting, but that's not the be-all, end-all. What the other one is to require mediation, professional mediation, people that have been specially trained in the rules of mortgages and finance, and also to do a 6 months moratorium on non-judicial foreclosures. That's another problem that's very Hawaii specific, that isn't just the full United States, is our non-judicial foreclosure laws were created in an attempt to easily take land away from Native Hawaiians. So they're worse, they're more draconian than other states, and it's just way too easy for them to do. And then the other thing is, what happened during all this last maybe 8 years is that a new organization started called MERS, Mortgage Electronic Registration System, and the banks stopped creating paper copies of all of the transactions that they were doing. So the mortgages were bundled together in packages like millions of dollars, hundreds of mortgages, thousands of mortgages actually, and then the note and the mortgage, the note to the property and the mortgage weren't always traveling together. So sometimes the mortgage would be over here and the note would be over there, and then a bank would say, okay, we own that mortgage. Well, yeah, but you own the property. So a lot of foreclosures would not happen, and this is still in the bills that are still alive, is the requirement that the person, the entity trying to foreclose, prove that they actually own the property. I mean, the level of fraud of this thing is bigger financially in dollar amounts than anything ever in the history of the world. I mean, it is amazing. And, of course the federal government, I'm sure, knows about it, but they're concerned if they crack down, what's going to happen. So there's this kind of tight walk dance, are the banks solvent, are they not? It's the whole thing is frightening. But legislators can do something. I don't want to just paint this gloomy picture. A lot is the federal legislators. The federal legislators just need to get strict, I have this other colleague, her profession, I met her, she was running a social service agency, Hanamakamai. in Hana, and I went out there to talk to her about doing some consulting for them. But her other profession is being a bank regulator. And she used to work for the federal government, and she had like a portfolio of 8 banks, and her job was to make sure that those banks were following all the rules. And of course, their funding got cut. A lot of the regulations were softened and taken away, and they weren't able to properly regulate the banks. And she even had some personal experience with the mortgage, with her mortgage, and she said, you know what, I am an expert level understanding how banking works, and I can't even do anything about this.
So I don't want to go to the logical conclusion, because this problem is bigger than any problem we've seen before, and the federal government doesn't want to say too much because it's going to collapse the system, right?
Yes, and I don't want people to start going into fear, because, you know, our best weapon is education. You know, I think during the rise of our country, and where the standard of living was getting better, where the life expectancy rate was getting better, people were just enjoying life. I mean, many of those years I was just enjoying my life.
Right.
And then I started getting very concerned. I started getting alarmed, like you said, and realized, no, I need to focus my attention on what's happening and what can I, as an individual, do. And everybody can do something. Everybody. Because I think those days of just enjoying your life and your family, I think we also need to involve ourselves in whatever way. You know, some people are concerned about this issue. Some people are concerned about agriculture. Some people are concerned about nutrition and health. Some people are concerned about animals, you know, protecting animals, protecting children, helping the most needy. There's many, many issues and things that need to be dealt with. And government, you know, I'm working in government, I'm running to be a legislator. We can only do so much. And that's the other thing I wanted to talk to you. As working for a chair of a committee, I'm right there, and a bill comes forward, and my boss says, do we have testimony? We don't have testimony. Call, get some testimony. So I have to like make all these calls trying to get somebody to testify on something that most people, if you ask them, they would say, oh yeah, of course. People don't realize that the legislators are dependent. It's a symbiotic relationship. The legislators are dependent on the public to submit testimonies, because I've seen my boss. She wrote a bill. She introduced the bill. She is the chair of the committee that's hearing the bill, and if nobody from the public comes and supports it, she has to defer the bill, which means it's just kind of pushed to the side. So people don't realize how much, at the state level, how much testimony is valuable and really makes a difference. I mean, a lot of people do, you know, send an email blast to their representatives, and that's good for education, but the rubber meets the road in the actual committee.
Oh.
And
that's very important. I'm really glad to hear that. I bet you really now know that you can make a difference. So when someone has a feeling about an issue, directly to the committees is the way to do it?
Right. So what you do is you go to the legislative website, www.capital.hawaii.gov, and if you know about a bill, just type in the bill number. If you don't know the number of the bill, then you can also do a subject search. You know, let's say, like I said, agriculture, finance, foreclosures, animal rights, park and recreation, environment, whatever your issue. So type that in, and then just look at the bills. And if you see one that's of interest to you, then you can submit testimony online. Because I know those of us, you know, living on Maui, it's a long ways. So if you can, that's awesome. But if you can't, that's also perfectly fine. So you just type it up, you know, dear chairs, I strongly support HB blah blah blah, or I strongly oppose SB blah 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 for this and this and this reasons. And that's what they want to know. They want to know, how do these bills affect the people? So your testimony can make the difference between a bill passing or not passing.
That's big. It's huge.
And then the other thing is, there's certain people, like for instance, I'm very interested in criminal justice reform. And there's this one woman who sends out Cat Brady, who sends out a blast to everybody on her email list. So I just get the email list, and then she says, testify for this. So, because following bills takes a lot of energy. So what you do is, if there's a certain subject matter that you resonate with, then you find the group, the people that have the time to be tracking those bills, and then you can, spend your 15 minutes sitting on your computer, bam, send, done. And so it's like a tag team approach.
Well, that's great. And it's nice to hear there are people out there helping that happen, because like you say, with all the issues, it's a lot to follow, but find your passion.
Exactly.
And stay with it, and they have groups that will keep you informed.
Yes, exactly.
Good.
Or then you can get an alert for those particular bills, so that'll come to your email box or RSS feeds that you can find out information about that.
Well, before any more time goes on, I just want public to know, I have truly been watching you these last couple of election cycles. I first met you, and you were running for council. And you had a lot. You said a lot, and you were very passionate, and you didn't get the seat. But I thought, this woman is really interested and checks out things she talks about. She's not fluff. Having interviewed quite a few candidates, people have a lot of passion, including myself, but don't have a lot of facts. But you really have dug in and seen what's going on and get involved, and that is incredibly appreciated. I appreciate it. So I wanted to be here and give you another opportunity to be here with the public, because that's what we need. We need people that are committed, come hell or high water. It's your passion, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome, Jason. Thank you so much for your appreciation.
My passion is showing people like you.
Well, without you, we wouldn't have a forum. So
I'm glad to be here.
It's a really important service that you're doing. I'm very grateful for what you're doing.
We were on foreclosure and we're sort of talking housing, but if you don't mind, I want to talk about housing because, I could get in, really blow this subject up in big terms, but basic thing like housing, people don't have money. No matter what I hear about jobs getting better and all this PR, there are a lot of people that don't have jobs and their monies are getting tighter. Here in EL, I live close by, and there are people here every day. This is their rest stop because they live out. They don't have any place to live anymore. Anything like that being addressed in the legislature? I know it's a sort of an odd subject. We don't want to create housing just to happen everywhere with any kind of shelter being okay, but I'm sure it's been in discussion. Any conversations going on about that stuff?
Yeah, homelessness is, for our housing committee, one of our top issues, absolutely. And we've introduced several bills, one about homeless parking lots. We were even considering going to Santa Barbara and visiting because they have a really good program there in Santa Barbara. And what it is for people working homeless or people that basically have a vehicle but no home. And if you have a vehicle, you may notice that, it's hard to find places to park at night. The police come and say, you can't park here, ma'am or sir, and you have to leave. You get ticketed. And so the idea is to create a safe haven for people to park their car. And, people would come in the evening and they'd leave early in the morning. And so we were researching that. And so we had that idea. My boss also had the idea of places where people could put their tent, same thing, where it's kind of like, sometimes there's things that are happening in society that are not the optimal, but it's better to just admit that it exists and deal with it than just try to push people away, especially in an island. People go here, then they go here. They're still on the island, they go in a circle. But what we have found with all of these bills is that every great idea that we have, somebody says, yes, but not in my backyard. NIMBY. And so Representative Cabanilla and I are making a video, a 30-second PSA, public service announcement video about NIMBY, and just reminding people that, you know, we are all one Ohana. And that's not just esoteric, it's also just a fact that on an economic level, on a social level, we all affect each other. And also sometimes there's really great, like an example I wrote about in the Maui News was in Chinatown. There was Honolulu, Chinatown. There was $10.8 million appropriated to build a Housing First project. And what Housing First is that when people are living on the street, if they need to go to the emergency room, they still go to the emergency room, and of course they have no money, and then we end up all paying for it. And so to say, well, we're just not going to deal with them, it doesn't work that way, because we're paying a whole lot more money. Because they're still going to go to the emergency room. You know, the police are still going to be moving them around. Some of them will go to jail just to get off the street. I mean, so this Housing First, it stipulates that if people are at least in housing, then the next steps can come. Then there can be a case manager to help them with their medical, their mental health, their health, all of their other issues. And the residents in Chinatown said, no, we don't want this because it's going to attract homeless people. Well, I don't know if anybody here in Maui has done this recently, but if you go to Chinatown, especially in the evening, especially weekend evening, it's horrible. I mean, it smells really bad. There's people lying on the street. It's just not a good thing. And if the people, so what happened is the residents of Chinatown said, and stop this project. And so now nothing progressed because people, they feel fear. Oh, we don't want this, it's going to harm us. And actually that would have helped. And so that's what our 30-second PSA on NIMBY was saying, is like, you know, just chill for a second, listen to the problem, and listen to all the details. And that's what happens a lot in politics. Most people are busy living their lives, taking care of their families, working their jobs, having a little recreational time. And so it takes a lot of time. What you were saying before, it takes a lot. It's a full-time job to research all the issues, because very few issues are really black and white. There's so many details of that. And so I guess I'm just requesting, you know, if something is requested to come, either a nonprofit, a government agency, the county, the state, says we want to have this project in your neighborhood, take the time, research. If I support this project, what will it actually do to my community? If I don't support this project, what's going to happen with my community? Will the problem get worse? Will the homeless problem actually get worse? And so I think we're requesting a little, just remembering that we are, especially in Hawaii, we are all one.
And what if that was you?
Exactly.
I mean, you know, there are people that have had stages in this process over the last, now 3 years, 2.5 years since the mortgage explosion.
Yeah.
And their attitudes have changed as suddenly they became victim to things that they were judging before.
Exactly.
And I can say it again, fact is, it's increasing. It may not, a lot of it isn't accounted for, you know, it's like an unemployment. I think that's funny. You go off the unemployment rolls and suddenly somehow you're not being counted. And that doesn't mean you're not unemployed, it means you're not being counted. So the numbers are going up, the percentages are staying the same or going down.
Exactly.
Statistics are a funny thing. But, you know, we could talk about these subjects. I wonder about alternative housing plans. Now, here in Maui, we've got Will Spence now, head of planning, planning director, which is a major plus.
Yeah, I love Will. He's awesome. I'm very happy.
Well, I'm hoping that in these kinds of times, alternative housing, not only do we need a place, but we need to look at other ways of addressing what now is happening. People are downsizing and learning they don't need as much.
Yeah, retirees, of course, don't need a big house anymore.
And but we're watching, you know, with this problem that just happened in Japan, which we bless and honor the people in Japan for
that
their
is
struggle.
very...
The way that they all treated each other and treat each other with respect and dignity and helping and no looting and all the things that if all of us would just kind of get in touch with our higher power, if you will, of something that has us respect each other a little bit more and be involved a little bit more. And when something is in your area or a project get involved a little bit more. I think then maybe we have a chance that we can handle this and not protract this problem and make it, when someone said, the new good, what does that mean? How are you doing? Oh, I'm doing good. Not really doing good, but compared to what others are doing, it's good. So that's the new good. So I thought that was an interesting expression. But how would we call it? The new uninvolved. You don't want to be involved.
Or the new involved.
The new
involved, the new way to get involved and because I mean we all know that when we give, when we help, we feel something in our heart. We feel a good feeling and just kind of encouraging that. And in a way where you're doing it what's the most natural for you. Don't force yourself. That's not the point. But find something that you care about. Again, what issue do you care about? How would you like to contribute?
I make a better place, a better society, and that's what you do. That's like I said. I think of you as my representative.
Well, that's great. Even though you live in Wailuku, I'm glad you think that.
I mean, it's very important because you truly, like I say, the passion that you put into doing this is what it's going to take from all of us. And you have the knowledge, and now that's what you're doing, continuing to build your experience to help affect laws to make it better. But really, it's from your caring, and it's been very attractive as a candidate. Someone says, "Oh, she's not in my area." You're in my area. You're in my heart area.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Because you're sharing and doing what we need. And I don't know about you guys out there specifically, but I think you all can agree. That's the kind of involvement that you want from your legislators. That's the kind of involvement you want from all of us.
All of us.
All of us. What other pet issues? There's so many. Any other areas that are important and focus you'd like to share with people?
Health and nutrition. As I was saying before, when our standard of living was going up and when our life expectancy was going up, right now it's not going up. The Center for Disease Control estimates that of children born in 2000, 1/3 or 1/2, if it's a minority child, will develop diabetes sometime in your lifetime. And I went shopping last night at Safeway, and it was so hard to find something that did not have sugar in it. And I don't mean cookies, I mean crackers. I got something in the Olive Bar, and they had sugar in it.
Uh-huh.
I got some sushi, and it has sugar in it. They're putting sugar in everything. And that, and the other thing is school lunches. I'm very involved in improving school lunches. Now, Hawaii and definitely Maui is fortunate compared to many other states. We have in our schools full kitchens, full commercial kitchens for the cafeterias. So in some other states, they just have Monarch or whoever the suppliers come in, and everybody just opens up cans and says, okay, there's lunch. And then they also have these huge junk food dispensaries that the kids are using money for, much to the parents' chagrin, and then that money goes into some of like the athletic programs or et cetera. But it's kind of like a self-defeating thing. Yeah, let's give the kids a bunch of junk food and then have an athletic program to keep them healthy. It's kind of. But anyway, so in Hawaii we don't have all of that. So we are at a good place, and so I have been talking to the Director of Food Services for the Department of Education about allowing the school gardens. So a lot of schools are having school gardens. There's several organizations. Community Workday has a program. of helping with school gardens at the elementary and intermediate schools. So I think in my district in Kihei, all three, oh actually four, Kamali'i School, Kihei School, Kihei Charter School, and Lokilani Intermediate School all have school gardens. So that's fun for the kids. It gives them something to, you know, put their hands into and really get involved in. And then what the parents and the teachers are noticing is that if you give the kids some broccoli on their plate, they're like, but if the kid helps that broccoli grow, nurtures that broccoli, then they want to eat it. So there's an involvement in it. And you know, we're in Maui. This is still pretty rural. I mean, most people could have a garden or have a friend or a community garden if that's not your cup of tea, if they want. But anyway, so to get the schools to allow, or the Department of Education to allow community garden or school garden food to be served in the cafeteria. So, and also working with the Farm Bureau and Farmers Union about helping the farmers learn what they need to do to get certified to be served in the school. Because it's interesting. You can sell the food at a swap meet, at the grocery store, and there's not that many strict, but to serve it to the kids, there's all these strict sanitation rules when those same kids are going to go home and the parents are going to, and the people at the school are professionals. They're working for a living in a cafeteria, so they can know, okay, you have to wash it this way. So even the Director of Public Health for Maui, Dr. Lauren Pang, I'm a big fan of his, he says, you know, we don't have any problem, the Department of Health, we don't have any problem if they serve the school garden food in the cafeteria. So that's something I'm also working on, because nutrition is the cornerstone, and we just all need to eat more vegetables. I mean, you know, just...
You too, the guy in the back row there.
Vegetables are the key. You know, fresh fruit and vegetables, and it's like a habit, like anything. If you start eating vegetables, then if you don't have any in your meal, you're gonna feel like something's missing. So it's just what you're used to.
Well, we could go on and probably talk forever, and that might be fun. But how can people get in touch with you? Because obviously you're sitting in a very important committee there. But in general, how do people get in touch with you? Because I hope that this video will run on the internet and be a tool to be encouraging to all people that are out there to be more involved and to realize that a passion can lead to what you're doing, which is now a process. At some point, hopefully sooner than later, you'll be a representative. And just really a great example of that. How do people get in touch with you?
Well, if you're on Facebook, invite me to be your friend, and I will accept. Or you can look at my website, www.electnetra.com. So either of those two places, and then on there is my email address, netra@electnetra.com. So I'm very easy to find. I'll even say my phone number because it's on all those places, 359-1673. And I'm really happy to hear from people, because, you know, I need to know, what are people concerned about? What are people feeling needs to change? You know, where do the priorities need to be? So I really want to hear from you.
Me too. And you always see my numbers. But I'm on Facebook. And I'm very happy to have had Netra here. Thank you for joining me.
Well, you're very
Pleasure.
Welcome. I always love talking to you, Jason.
I hope we can do this again and not have to wait, because there's a long time before an election cycle. But there's a lot going on, and clearly you're in touch with what's going on, and we all need to hear that. It's really nice for people to get up close and personal and in an informal setting be able to talk about something like this. Really,
well,
thank you.
Again, I really appreciate that you are putting all of the candidates out there, and all of the in-between candidates, or community advocates.
If you're candidates or anyone, you're welcome to call me.
My cards now say community advocate. So basically I'm advocating for the community in whatever venue. I'm also on the board of Neighborhood Place of Wailuku. And we are thinking of starting, well, it's actually definitely disagree. But something in the educational realm, because education, I didn't even get time to talk about education, but that is definitely...
Why? What do you want to say that important?
About education is that we need to prioritize it. Everybody says that, but the other thing is getting back to the roots. Our education system of kids sitting in desks and the teacher talking to them in rows has been there since plantation times. That was an excellent way to train people to be plantation workers. However, that's not what we're trying to train our kids for anymore. We're trying to train our kids to think, to be creative, to come up with solutions. And there are other ways to do that are better. And the No Child Left Behind Act, I have been pretty vocal that I do not think that's a good idea. And it's even Race to the Top. That the competition model is excellent for business, but education, competing one school against another school for funding is just not right. First of all, not all schools are the same. Some kids come from a very educationally and financially rich background. Other kids come from a background where the parents are just super busy working all the time and don't have time to help them with all their homework and learning things. And so it's just unfair. And also, kids automatically want to learn. I mean, if you have a 2-year-old, you're always saying, stop, don't touch that, don't touch that, don't touch that. That's the nature of human beings. I mean, curiosity may have killed the cat, but human beings are inherently curious. So the key isn't to mold and structure, is to nurture children learning. Because children want to learn. And I think children also want to do the right thing. It's just that they need ways to learn how to do that. And that's what that's what we're here for. So for education, I am advocating for less testing, less focus on testing, more focus on critical thinking, empathy building.
That's a big one. All
the things that create risk. I mean, there's whole groups of children that are at risk for social service issues, and then they're supposed to just go to class, and their emotional, sociological needs are completely ignored. Those are the important ones. That's, children need that nurturing, and some children are going to need a little bit more nurturing from the public school system, and some are getting enough at home, but everybody needs it. But, we have those kids for 6 hours every day. That is a lot of time, and we could use that time to, help kids, to help break that cycle. And I haven't talked about that this time, but is the cycle of poverty, substance abuse, domestic abuse, crime, and incarceration. And a child whose parent is incarcerated is 7 times as likely to become incarcerated themselves.
Wow.
And so that is something that the public school system can intervene in, helping kids with those issues. And it doesn't necessarily require a whole ton more money, but just a little bit more flexibility in the system. And also, I think the public school system realizing their job is not just to teach math and reading. I mean, our lives are more than math and reading. Our lives are multidimensional. We have 7 different intelligences. Language and math are only 2 of them. Important, but they're only 2 of them.
Wow. Well, you know a lot about a lot of stuff. That's good. You bring a strong foundation. And again, I guess it's very obvious. I think a lot of you, and I think that it's really a pleasure to see the level of commitment you're giving all of us.
Well, thank you.
Whether we live in your district and can vote for you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. The whole state, on some level, I care about. And of course, I'm focused on, Kihei, Wailea, Makeni, and Maui too. So anybody can contact me if you want to say something, make sure I'm aware of something.
That's great. Well, thank you all for joining us, and thank you for joining us. Really
thank you, Jason. Thank you very much.
We will see you again. Aloha.
The time has come to make a change. The time has come to unlock the hope that lives in each and every one of us. And we must do our part. We hold the visions God dreams of. Our hands can heal the let's gather round and let us make a stand. For you and me, unlock the hope and there's a better life. Unlock the hope, there'll be no turning back. But nothing changes unless we unlock the hope. The time has come to make a change. The time has come to unlock the hope that lives in each and every one of us. And we must do our part. We hold the visions God dreams of. Our hands can heal the ones we love. Let's gather round and let us make a stand. For you and me, unlock the hope and there's a better life. Unlock the hope, there'll be no turning back. But nothing changes unless we unlock the hope. But nothing changes unless we unlock the hope. But nothing changes. Unless we unlock the hope. Unless we unlock the hope. Unless we unlock the hope. Unless we unlock the hope.